How's it going, everybody? Can you hear me all right? Hopefully so. Can you see me all right? Today we're doing a lesson on how to groove and building your time feel. So we're going to go through these suggestions. It's been a while since we've had a live stream. Anybody want to name that first tune I just played? All right, so wanted to talk about groove and time feel today, and let's just get right to it, shall we? I think one of the first areas of crossing between intermediate and advanced would be really cementing your time feel and groove. Okay, of course you could say the same thing from beginner to intermediate. I think your groove and your time feel and your rhythm, right, is so important, because we can learn sort of where to place our fingers, but if we don't have a sense of rhythm, then it can be kind of a mess. And I was very fortunate as a kid growing up, because I didn't study, but I played the flute. Yes, Julia, can't buy me love. So, when I was 10 years old, I started playing flute in my elementary school band. And I learned how to read music. And I learned how to play with other people in an ensemble. And I learned how to look at the conductor. And all these things made such a massive difference. Even though I wasn't playing guitar until I was 16, I think I really benefited from getting a good foundation in rhythm and groove. Okay, and that has to do with a couple things that I'd like to talk about today, which you can do. All right, as guitar players, I think sometimes we practice alone at home, which I love doing. It's actually one of my favorite things to do, is to just practice in the peace of my own experience. However, if you only do that, then you might be lacking in rhythm, because really we want to be playing with other people, and we also want to be playing with a sense of rhythm and a sense of a backing track. Even if we're not playing with a backing track, we want to play as if we were. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense. So point is, there's my little slightly sloppy lecture there, but I really think you should focus on groove and time feel if you want to take your playing to the next level. And I've got a list of suggestions. All right, so I've got 6 suggestions. We're gonna go through them. We're gonna spice it up with some playing and some live, some live improvisation as we go. So it's not just all dry, hopefully. So how to groove and improve your time feel. So the first suggestion, okay, would be play with drums, backing tracks, what else did I say here? And loops. Drums, backing tracks, and loops. All right? Now, I'm not even talking about a drummer. That's the second one, is play with people, which I know can be tricky if you're not in a band. I teach for a living, but I also gig for a living, so I'm always playing with people as a job. Now, if I was just playing as a hobby, I may not have the good fortune of always being able to play with people, so I know that can be tough. So let's start with number 1. Play with drums, meaning play with any type of backing track, is going to be good for your groove. Okay, so I use a program called iReal Pro. Okay, that's I, the letter I, and then Real, and then Pro. Okay, I'm not sponsored by them. It's not an advertisement, and you surely don't need that to use to find backing tracks, right? But I use this program. It's very powerful. And the first song I played on this stream was "Can't Buy Me Love," and it's just a Beatles playlist that is free online, and it's got a tempo for me. It has a drum beat on it. So let me, in case you missed the first few minutes, let me play this backing track, and I'll talk about a couple things after I kind of play over it a little bit. Okay? Love can't buy me love. Okay, I'm not gonna sing. I'm playing this song, but instead of just thinking, okay, I have to learn all these chords and play the song by myself, I'm letting the backing track do a lot of the work for me, and the backing track is playing, the chord progression, E minor, A minor, for me, and grooving for me, and then D minor to G7. Then the verse is kind of like a blues, C7. But again, this is a lot to learn if you don't know the song yet. F7, back to C7, G7, F7, sorry, C7. So I played over that backing track, and I automatically took some of the work out, and I literally used my ear to find that melody. I'd never have played this song before today. Right? And I'm letting the backing track carry the groove. Now, as the backing track is happening, we can do a couple things besides just play. All right, we can count the beats. All right, and that's number 3. So I'm just going to tease this number 3 out, count beats and subdivisions. So when you're listening, when you're playing along with the backing track, you want to notice, can I hear the backbeat? The backbeat would be the 2 and the 4. It's where the snare falls. All right, this is kind of a quick song, hot tempo. So I'm going to slow it down, which I can do here. I'm going to slow it down to 150. And I'm going to start right on the verse where Paul McCartney starts singing, da 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 da. Okay, so I'm going to start right there, and I'm just going to count the beats, not even play. All right. Well, I have to start the intro. It's all right. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Love. 3, 4, 1. The snare. Let's listen for the snare. All right. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, what you can do is actually focus on that more than anything else, the snare and the backbeat. Sometimes musicians such as myself or other musicians, especially in jazz school, will put the metronome only on the 2 and the 4. All right? So you only have the backbeat. That's all you get. And it's a really good exercise. But anyway, I just interrupted myself. So now we're going to play this song, and we're going to feel that 2 and 4. All right? 2, 3, 4. Here we go. 4, 2, 3, 4. Now when I play, I can let that anchor me in my groove. 4, 1, 2, 3. Hear that snare? Okay. I don't care to. Now it's going to repeat that verse. So now I'm going to play. I'm just going to play the chords. Now I'm going to play on the backbeat. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Here's the F7. Matching that snare. Nothing wrong with that. G7. F7. And then here comes the chorus. Now my soloing is a little bit more in the pocket. All right, what was that? That was subdivisions. So that's part of number 3. Count beats and subdivisions. I just did triplets. All right, and I did some eighth notes. So if I count the quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, that's only half the story, or not even half, okay? Because I can also count eighth notes. So if I have this song playing, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, that's great, but I can go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, and that's the eighth note groove, all right? And a lot of people think of the eighth notes as the groove, because the eighth notes kind of give you not only the beat, but how the beats are being divided in half. And you could either have straight or a slight swing. And this is kind of straight, but it's got a slight shuffle to it, kind of bluesy, which is normal of rock and blues. To have a little swing to it. So when I'm playing this, I can count that out: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I could just play along with this backing track and literally play on one note or one chord with subdivisions. So let's say I play eighth note subdivisions over this verse here. Okay, here we go. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Sounds like a real solo almost. Not very creative, but still effective. Okay, what about triplets? I can do triplet, 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 3 notes per beat. Okay, triplets might be a little fast on this if you're just starting out on this. Hey Don. Okay, Don asked a question here. Let's answer that. What scale am I using? Well, good question. I think the correct question though would be what scales. It's rare for me to just use one scale. So that's I know that's annoying probably to hear, but I would say mostly I would consider this song in C mixolydian, okay, which is kind of like, you know, matching with the C7 chord. So here's the first chord of the verse. Alright, that's a C7 chord, and mixolydian is the scale that goes along with that. But perhaps more importantly, what's the melody doing? What scale is the melody in? Paul McCartney is singing a C minor pentatonic. Actually, almost C minor pentatonic, but then it goes down to that second degree, so it's almost Dorian. I would just say, just for simplicity's sake, it's C pentatonic. So that I was using that as well. So I was crossing between C mixolydian and C pentatonic. When it went to F7, I started playing F7 mixolydian, and maybe even F minor pentatonic, probably not, and then G7, G mixolydian. But I'm not thinking about that because I've sort of incorporated those scales into my vocabulary over time. So that's a great question. It's hard to answer that with just one scale. All right. So is this making sense so far? We have the ability to play with backing tracks, and you can change the tempo, and you can play over any song. You know, I have a lot of songs on my iReal Pro. When I was in grad school at USC, you know, we had to memorize 100 jazz tunes over the course of 4 years or something. And so you better believe that I was playing around with backing tracks all the time in order to get those songs memorized. All right. I know my audience is not huge into jazz, so I won't go through all of that. But let's pick out a little jazz tune, and I'll show you what that would sound like real quick here. Let's see. Autumn Leaves. All right, so if I want to do Autumn Leaves, it's true I could work out a solo arrangement. But that's a lot of work for somebody just getting going with the song. So usually, now before I had iReal Pro, I would just find a backing track from Jamie Aebersold, who, if there's any jazz students out there, they would recognize that name. He made a lot of backing tracks in the 90s and etc. Before all these beautiful, wonderful apps came out. So let me play this Autumn Leaves here. 2, 3. Sorry. So actually, this melody starts on the second beat of a pickup bar. So 1. Okay, now I'm going to count out the beats. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. See? There's the backbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. So important. Now we'll try some subdivisions. Here's some eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and a little swing. How about some triplets? How about some 16th notes? 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. was the hard part of the song. So hold on, let me try that at the top. 1E and a 3E and a 4E and a. Can you do it without stopping? That's the. I can't do it while I talk. Okay. I'll stop before I further embarrass myself trying faster and faster subdivisions. But that would be something that I did, and I still do, you know, when I find the time, is to just practice subdivisions over a tune, over a backing track. You could do it without a backing track, but it would probably be nice to do it with a metronome. Okay, so we're going to get to that. All right, Don says, thanks, I love jazz. Counting the beats are a huge challenge. Yeah, I know, and I have quite a few private students, and we're working on that. And it's tough when you play, so that's why I recommend listening. A lot of listening. You don't need to play the guitar all the time. Listen for the beats. Sometimes I don't as much anymore, but I used to just count out beats in the car, create rhythms while driving, while sitting around. And then while listening to music, I would count out rhythms and say, what's that rhythm? 1E and 2E. And counting 16th notes will really work your brain and be good for you. Hey, thanks, Dror. Dodor. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right. I've really appreciated your comments lately, so thanks so much. Don and Julia are longtime subscribers, so good to see you as well. Hey, Rich. All right. Yeah, absolutely. We will learn that for sure. Okay, cool. Well, it's good to see you all. I haven't done these live streams in a while. So hopefully everyone's having a nice weekend. All right, so let's kind of take stock of what we got here. We talked about number 1, play with drums, backing tracks, loops. I haven't made a loop yet, but I will. All right. Number 2 was play with people. So nothing really to demonstrate with that, but let me just mention this. You want to play with people, okay, as much as you can, if you can. I know that's been tough the last few years because of the state of things. However, maybe that's going to be more of a possibility for you with the changes lately in terms of people being able to hang out more together in the same room. So anyway, you want to try to play with people. You kind of imagine like if you played for 20 minutes by yourself, okay, you got 20 minutes of practice time in. If you play with 20 minutes with people, it's like an hour. It's like even more. It transcends practice time, because when you play with people, it's like having a conversation. It's like, you know, you can't imagine the conversation until you have it. So you can't imagine the music and what you learn until you play with people. So I would just recommend get some friends. It doesn't have to be a band, you know, it can just be for fun. It can just be guitars. It doesn't have to be drums and bass. I learned a lot from jamming with my friends on guitar. They didn't want to become a musician necessarily. They weren't trying to be a professional like I was, but they still could play some chords, and I would say, all right, you just play those chords and I'll try to play along with you. And I happened to like lead a lot when I was younger, so I would let my friends play the rhythm and I would do some lead stuff, and that really improved my rhythm so much. And I mentioned earlier playing flute as a kid, you know, as a 4th, 5th, 6th grader, and we had to play with each other. We had to all sound decent enough, you know. All right, Navmeet says, I am completely self-taught. I know when I am in time and stuff and can fix it if I mess up, but playing with a metronome messes me up. Okay, we're going to talk about metronome. Dodor says, begin by choosing one key. Yeah, absolutely. Choosing one key and sticking with it. Yeah, that's a great idea. All right, so so that's number 2, play with people. Number 3, count beats and subdivisions. Kind of talked about that. All right, number 4 is a fun one. Play drums on guitar. I'm going to come back to number 1 a little bit. But anyway, number 4, play drums on guitar. Whatever do I mean? Well, if you look at a lot of songs, especially ones that are produced in a studio, generally the guitar parts are going to be fitting with the groove quite well. And strumming parts especially are going to be a rhythm aspect. So if you're a rhythm instrument, you have to match with the bass and drums, all right? So what you want to do is, you don't even have to play music necessarily, although the rhythm is music, but you don't have to play chords or melodies or anything. You could just get that backbeat going, okay, with a 2 and 4. So if I thought of the drums, all right, we have 3 essential elements for a drum kit: bass, bass kick, snare, and hi-hat. So let's start with the snare. Snare would be on the 2 and 4. So I would think 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. I happen to be hitting the treble strings. What if I wanted to add bass? Now I would hit the bass string. So I would maybe think 1, 2, 3, 4. To be simple, I'll start with a bass snare pattern. Bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, snare. Kind of boring. So I'm going to add a couple more bass kicks. Bass, bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, bass, snare. Again, we're missing the hi-hat. So now with the hi-hat, I can do 8th notes, all right, and 16th notes. Two, 3, 4. All right. Now I can loop that on my looper here, which I don't do often. I don't just loop just a muted strum, but I'll do it for this live stream. Okay, now I have something that I know doesn't sound as cool as a drum kit, but it's something. Now I can play some chords to it. Oops. Shoot. Okay, I forgot how short the loop was. So hold on, let me do that again. There we go. Okay. So now I'll do a much quicker chord progression. Here we go. So now my strumming pattern is locking with that groove. Now when I'm playing my lead, I still want to count the beats and nod my head. 1, 2, 3, 4. Making sure that I'm hitting everything that's fitting with that groove. Even the fast stuff, especially the fast stuff. Now I don't have to fill up every space. I could just go take a break. Okay. Do some more rhythm. Strong emphasis on the 2 and the 4. 1, 2, 4, 2, 4. Okay. Just having some fun. Hey, James, good to see you. Intro to Voodoo Child. That's right. Jimi Hendrix was playing guitar, playing drums on the guitar on the Intro to Voodoo Child with the wah-wah pedal. And, you know. Right. I actually have a lesson on that song. All right, Doror says, as you do this, you'll probably start to have moments of realizing, hey, that sounds pretty good. Yeah, absolutely. The best is when you don't realize how good it sounds until you're in the moment and you're like, wow, this is pretty great. Okay. So that was number 4. Play drums on guitar. Hopefully this is helpful. And it's great to see you all. I'll take this moment to remind you to subscribe kindly. Hit the bell icon. Also check out the Patreon, where we're building a nice community there. Having some wonderful interactions there with people, so you can message me there and ask for tips. Also, I post study guides, backing tracks, not just tabs. I mean, I do mostly tabs for songs, but I also do music theory study guides, a few exercises, a few backing tracks. So something to check out if you're looking to get more committed to guitar in general. It's a good option. Okay, number 5, you're not going to love, I imagine. It's learn to read music. All right, now, do you need to learn how to read music? No. Do you need to learn theory? No. But need is a strong word, Does it hurt to learn to read music or learn theory? Absolutely not. It doesn't hurt at all. And, I would say you don't need to learn to read music or learn music theory to play with good rhythm and groove. Absolutely not. But it is a great idea because if you're going to understand rhythm, in order to say, look when you look at sheet music, okay, it's one of the first technologies in order to preserve music. So when people were composing music, obviously recorded music didn't come around until the end of the 1800s, early 1900s. So in order to preserve music and melodies and rhythms and chords and harmonies, they started writing down music in a form that's now known as music notation. And it's got the rhythm all written out for you. So it's really powerful stuff. And you can basically sit there and sort of slowly go through a piece of music and read the rhythms of that music and count it out. And it's a little bit more meditative and a little bit more slowed down of a process than just getting thrown into a jam and trying to get the rhythm and count the beats, and maybe it's all a bit hectic. You can really take your time when you read music and say, okay, you've got this piece of music, whether it's classical, doesn't have to be classical, but if it is, and you're reading these notes, and you say 1 and 2 3, 1 and 2. I haven't played that song in a while, but so 1 and 2 3, 1 and 2 3. So that song is in 3/4, but I'm feeling the beat. Okay, let's say you're just reading one of my tabs, but you're looking at the sheet music, which I always put above on the Patreon. I put the sheet music above, and you're learning this strumming pattern, say for Honky Tonk Woman or something. Kind of a tricky rhythm. Okay, so that would be, you could look at the rhythm of the sheet music, and you know an A chord. You don't need to look at the tab anymore, and just say, okay, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. Okay, so when I say learn to read music, learn to read rhythms in music. All right, you don't have to be a master at every single note on a staff, but learn to read rhythms in music. All right, number 6. Okay, good question here. From Dror. Is it possible to learn to read notes on your own? Yeah, especially nowadays with YouTube education. I don't teach how to read music on my channel, but I'm sure a lot of people do. Okay, you could also just get a book. I mean, I love books. I think, I know that everyone tends to learn online nowadays, which is great, but get a book on how to read music. Nothing wrong with that. Now, if you really want to make it, more efficient, I would just sign up for a community college course on intro to music theory or whatever, and they'll teach you how to read music. Learning piano is a great way to learn how to read music and sheet music. But Guitar, yeah, I'd say you can get like an intro to classical guitar or intro to reading music on guitar kind of book, and then just learn the C major scale on the guitar, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Look at how all the notes are written out. Beyond the scope of this lesson for sure. So I'm just throwing out a suggestion. All right. Number 6 is use a metronome. Can't really see this, can you? Number 6 is use a metronome. Okay. Now, that's probably what you were expecting right away when I started this stream. Where did my phone go? Oh, there it is. So let me pull up a metronome. Okay. It's not as scary as it sounds. And then we'll probably wrap it up soon. All right. So I've got this app called Pro Metronome. Doesn't really matter. I've also got 2 metronomes behind me on the piano there. So this is 110. I'm going to slow it down to 90. All right, now, here's the thing with the metronome. You don't have to practice sort of, the cliche with the metronome is, okay, time to do my scales the same old way with the metronome, or time to, whatever, work on a very specific sort of clinical thing. You can have fun with the metronome. So I'll just improvise on a metronome. I'll just play a song. I'll improvise maybe a scale. Let's start with a scale. So I have a C major scale. Okay, I run it. That's good. It's only the beginning though. I'm creating melodies. Right? Nothing wrong with having fun with a metronome. I'm just sort of messing around. I was kind of playing a 1-4-5 progression with a lead. All C major, by the way. There was no note outside of C major in that entire thing. Maybe a flat 3. But so now let's say I want to run an actual song. I can play a song with the metronome. All right? So let's see. What should I play? How about the Beatles' From Me to You? Da, 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 da. Now you can tap the metronome and give it your own beat. Da, 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 da. That's 130. Okay, 130. Perfect. Da, da, da. So now I'm going to play this song with the metronome. It's like having a very kind of dull drummer, right? Got arms that long to hold you. That was kind of ridiculous, but I was trying to stretch myself and still hear the form and the beat. You don't have to be so reckless, though. Ooh, if there's anything that you want. And again, I can do a backing track, but I'm just trying to be my own band here a little bit. What if I take a lead approach over the song? I'm keeping the beat even without chords behind me, just playing the lead. See, the song is existing whether or not I'm playing the chords. And that's another thing. Metronomes will allow you to have some sort of verifiable, sort of concrete reality as you go into the stratosphere with your solos and your leads and your ideas. When we're playing, we don't necessarily always want to have the responsibility of having to know where every beat is. So that's the power of a metronome. Let that, delegate that job out, right? Delegate that job out. And then if you can count the 4 beats enough times, it'll basically be something that's slightly subconscious, you know. Now, last thing I think we'll talk about today. By the way, let me know what songs of mine you're learning or what lessons you've been enjoying. It's always good to hear that. So one more thing I'll say is what you want to start doing. Maybe let's take a step back. Okay, we've been talking about specific exercises, specific things, technologies, tools, tips, subdivisions, whatever. But let's take a step back. What you should really do to improve your groove and your time feel is to memorize some sort of form, okay? Some sort of form. And then to have that form in your ear without even playing. So, the first form I recommend is the 12-bar blues. Okay, you can't go wrong with the 12-bar blues. I generally make all my students, you know, at least memorize the 12-bar blues, even if they're not going to be playing it a lot, because then you have a form that you can rely on and that you can build off of. So the 12-bar blues is something where you can have a backing track, okay? And, you know, let's say I have a 12-bar blues in A, okay? So 4 bars of A7, all right? 2 bars of D7, 2 bars of A7. And then I would have the turnaround. It would be E7, D7, A7, E7. Now this backing track I pulled up happens to be E7, E7, A7, E7. That's fine. It's close enough. So now I'm going to play this blues, and I'm going to basically work on my rhythm, all right? And you don't even need the backing track. You can just... There's 2 bars. And keep track of where you are in the form. I knew I was at 4 bars there. I could feel it, but you got to count it for now if you don't feel it yet. I know I'm at the turnaround. I can feel it. See, that's the point. You want to feel these things and not count it every time after a while. So actually, let me just loop that. We don't need the backing track, and then we'll do a little blues to send us off to our nice relaxing weekends. All right. Okay, here we go. Whoops. A little 12-bar blues. This is a nice bass pattern here. There's the 4 chord, 1 chord. You're also ear training when you're playing the blues because you got the 1, 4, 5. Here's the 5. 4 chord. You could spend hours learning how to play over the blues. 3, 4, 3, 3rd bar, 4. That's the 4 chord. 2nd bar of that. Back to the 1 chord. Do you feel the turnaround coming? Here it is. There's the turnaround. We're back at the top. If you're going to go off on a little solo, don't forget about the form. See, I knew that was coming. Doesn't always mean you play the right notes just because you know it's coming. Okay. And I like the blues because it shows up in pop and rock, not so obviously or blatantly, but the 1, 4, 5, it shows up everywhere, and the blues is sort of in our ears. So you want to get that going, and then you just be able to play it without a backing track and kind of know where you are in the form, right? All right, let me take one more chorus here. Those are 8th notes. Oh wait, sorry, that was 16th notes. That's 8th notes. Let's do some subdivisions. Here's 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 1 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Here's triplets. Triplet, triplet, triplet. About 16 notes. 1E into 2E into 3E into 4E into. It sounds better with triplets, actually. Triplet, triplet, triplet. Has to do with the 12/8 feel of blues. Back to the top. If you can hear that turnaround each time, you're in good shape. Okay, so a lot of what groove and time feel has to do with is listening and feeling as opposed to playing. You don't always need to play to have good groove. And there's a lot of jokes that musicians have. It's the notes you don't play. It's not really a joke. It's more like a wise saying. It's the space in between the notes. And then there is sort of a joke with it's the notes you don't play, meaning, you know, don't play all the notes you hear all the time, which I'm guilty of doing sometimes. So, making sense? Twilight Storm's guitar and stuff. Having fun, learning, never going back again. Great lesson. Thanks. Ooh, that was a good workout. That was a lot of fun. I've always wanted to learn that song, and this channel presents me a nice opportunity to. Nothing. My friend can't make it to a show later. I'd always wanted to learn that song, and so this channel presents me a nice opportunity to learn these tough songs so that I can get it all written out for you guys. Hey, thanks, you subscribed. All right, thanks, Andrew. Welcome. Can you tell us a little bit how you started flamenco? Okay. What drew you to flamenco? Do you plan to teach flamenco lessons on YouTube? Okay. Well, what got me started in flamenco was I was at a semester abroad in Italy, Florence, and I really have always loved world music around the world, not just American rock, you know. And I had just been to Africa learning the kora, which, you know, is back there somewhere. And so I wanted to learn flamenco guitar. I had heard a wonderful concert in New York, visiting a friend, New York City. And I said, oh my God, flamenco, it's so beautiful. How could I have missed this? I mean, I was only 19 at the time, but I said, wow, this is insanely beautiful, you know? So just the virtuosity, the quickness, the mystery of it. So my dad was very supportive at this time when I was 19, so he paid for it. He said, yeah, go to Spain. I found a teacher there for a month, studied with him 2 hours a day. Didn't know a thing about flamenco. This guy was half Spanish, half British, so he spoke English. So I got my butt kicked 2 hours a day and brought a little cassette tape recorder to record, and then would practice at home. I was also, you know, writing a lot of songs at that time, so I was just playing all the time. And so then when I went to USC, part of the reason I went there is to study with Adam Del Monte, who grew up in Spain in half the time. And he was one of the few flamenco teachers in America teaching at a college. So I was the first studio guitar student to actually minor in flamenco, because usually the classical people would do that. And I was in the studio jazz guitar program. So generally you need a lot of classical training to do flamenco, but I had already gotten it because I was a classical guitar major as well in college before I switched to jazz, and I had gone to Spain. Okay. So I'm trying to make this answer brief, but I basically kept my flamenco journey going at USC, and then did an hour-long flamenco recital with a cajon player. I went back to Spain a second time, learned Spanish, and was there for 3 months and studied again. So, you know, I've been to Spain twice, and I studied for 5 years at USC. All right, I do plan on teaching more flamenco on YouTube. It's incredibly difficult, but now that you've mentioned it, I'll try to throw some more out there. I also want to teach some classical. All right, so I think it's time for me to get going, but really great to see you all. Good luck with your guitar journey. Please drop me a line anytime with a comment, or you can join the Patreon and chat with me there. I'm always happy to help, and I also offer private lessons, and I do have some availability, but I assume most of you will just enjoy the videos, and that's fine with me. So rock on, happy practicing, and enjoy your weekend. All right, good to see you all. Thanks for your comments. Take care.